This week's Grimm Fairy Tales, very close to the end. The Spirit in the Bottle. There was once a poor woodcutter who toiled from early morning till late night. When at last he had laid by some money, he said to his boy, "You are my only child. I will spend the money which I have earned with the sweat of my brow on your education. If you learn some honest trade, you can support me in my old age, when my limbs have grown stiff and I am obliged to stay at home." Then the boy went to a high school and learned diligently, so that his masters praised him, and he remained there a long time. When he had worked through 2 classes, but was still not yet perfect in everything, the little pittance which the father had earned was all spent, and the boy was obliged to return home to him. "Ah," said the father, sorrowfully, "I can give you no more, and in these hard times I cannot earn a farthing more than will suffice for our daily bread." "Dear father," answered the son, "don't trouble yourself about it. If it is God's will, it will turn to my advantage. I shall soon accustom myself to it." When the father wanted to go into the forest to earn money by helping to pile and stack wood, and also chop it, the son said, "I will go with you and help you." "Nay, my son," said the father, "that would be hard for you. You are not accustomed to rough work, and will not be able to bear it. Besides, I have only 1 axe and no money left wherewith to buy another." "Just go to the neighbor," answered the son. "He will lend you his axe until I have earned one for myself." The father then borrowed an axe of the neighbor's, and next morning, at break of day, they went out into the forest together. The son helped his father and was quite merry and brisk about it. But when the sun was right over their heads, the father said, "We will rest and have our dinner, and then we shall work as well again." The son took his bread in his hands and said, "Just you rest, father. I am not tired. I will walk up and down a little in the forest and look for birds' nests." "Oh, you fool," said the father. "Why should you want to run about there? Afterwards you will be tired and no longer able to raise your arms. Stay here and sit down beside me." The son, however, went into the forest, ate his bread, was very merry, and peered in among the green branches to see if he could discover a bird's nest anywhere. So he went up and down to see if he could find a bird's nest, until at last he came to a great dangerous-looking oak, which was certainly already many 100 years old, and which 5 men could not have spanned. He stood still and looked at it, and thought, "Many a bird must have built its nest in that." Then all at once it seemed to him that he heard a voice. He listened and became aware that someone was crying in a very smothered voice, "Let me out! Let me out!" He looked around but could discover nothing. Nevertheless, he fancied that the voice came out of the ground. Then he cried, "Where art thou?" The voice answered, "I am down here amongst the roots of the oak tree. Let me out! Let me out!" The scholar began to loosen the earth under the tree and search among the roots, until at last he found a glass bottle in a little hollow. He lifted it up and held it against the light, and then saw a creature shaped like a frog, springing up and down in it. "Let me out! Let me out!" It cried anew, and the scholar, thinking no evil, drew the cork out of the bottle. Immediately a spirit ascended from it, and began to grow, and grew so fast that in a very few moments he stood before the scholar, a terrible fellow as big as half the tree by which he was standing. "Knowest thou," he cried in an awful voice, "what thy wages are for having let me out?" "No," replied the scholar fearlessly. "How should I know that?" "Then I will tell thee," cried the spirit. "I must strangle thee for it." "Thou shouldst have told me that sooner," said the scholar, "for I should then have let thee shut up. but my head shall stand fast for all thou canst do. More persons than one must be consulted about that."
"More persons here, more persons there," said the spirit. "Thou shalt have the wages that thou hast earned. Dost thou think that I was shut up there for such a long time as a favor? No, it was a punishment for me. I am the mighty Mercurius. Whoso releases me, him must I strangle."
"Softly," answered the scholar. "Not so fast. I must first know that thou really wert shut up in that little bottle, and that thou art the right spirit. If indeed thou canst get in again, I will believe, and then thou mayest do as thou wilt with me." The spirit said haughtily,
"That is a very trifling feat,"
drew himself together, and made himself as small and slender as he had been at first, so that he crept through the same opening and right through the neck of the bottle in again. Scarcely was he within than the scholar thrust the cork he had drawn back into the bottle, and threw it among the roots of the oak into its old place, and the spirit was betrayed. And now the scholar was about to return to his father, but the spirit cried very piteously,
"Ah, do let me out! Ah, do let me out!"
"No," answered the scholar, "not a second time. He who has once tried to take my life shall not be set free by me, now that I have caught him again."
"If thou wilt set me free," said the spirit, "I will give thee so much that thou wilt have plenty all the days of thy life."
"No," answered the boy, "thou wouldest cheat me, as thou didst the first time."
"Thou art playing away with thy own good luck," said the spirit. "I will do thee no harm, but will reward thee richly."
The scholar thought, "I will venture it. Perhaps he will keep his word, and anyhow, he shall not get the better of me." Then he took out the cork, and the spirit rose up from the bottle as he had done before, stretched himself out, and became as big as a giant.
"Now thou shalt have thy reward,"
said he, and handed the scholar a little bag just like a plaster, and said,
"If thou spreadest one end of this over a wound, it will heal, and if thou rubbest steel or iron with the other end, it will be changed into silver."
"I must try that," said the scholar, and went to a tree, tore off the bark with his axe, and rubbed it with one end of the plaster. It immediately closed together and was healed. "Now it is all right," he said to the spirit, "and we can part." The spirit thanked him for his release, and the boy thanked the spirit for his present, and went back to his father.
"Where hast thou been racing about?"
said the father.
"Why hast thou forgotten thy work? I said at once that thou wouldst never get on with anything."
"Be easy, father. I will make it up."
"Make it up indeed,"
said the father angrily.
"There's no art in that."
"Take care, father. I will soon hew that tree there, so that it will split." Then he took his plaster, rubbed the axe with it, and dealt a mighty blow, but as the iron had changed into silver, the edge turned. "Hullo, father! Just look what a bad axe you've given me. It has become quite crooked." The father was shocked and said,
"Ah, what hast thou done? Now I shall have to pay for that, and have not the wherewithal, and that is all the good I have got by thy work."
"Don't get angry," said the son. "I will soon pay for the axe."
"Oh, thou blockhead!" cried the father. "Wherewith wilt thou pay for it? Thou hast nothing but what I give thee. These are students' tricks that are sticking in thy head, but thou hast no idea of woodcutting."
After a while the scholar said, "Father, I can really work no more. We had better take a holiday."
What?"
answered he.
"Dost thou think I will sit with my hands lying in my lap like thee? I must go on working, but thou mayest take thyself off home."
"Father, I am here in this wood for the first time. I don't know my way alone. Do go with me." As his anger had now abated, the father at last let himself be persuaded, and went home with him. Then he said to the son,
"Go and sell thy damaged axe, and see what thou canst get for it. and I must earn the difference in order to pay the neighbor."
The son took the axe and carried it into town to a goldsmith, who tested it, laid it on the scales, and said, "It is worth $400. I have not so much as that by me." The son said, "Give me what thou hast, I will lend you the rest." The goldsmith gave him $300 and remained 100 in his debt. The son thereupon went home and said, "Father, I have got the money. Go and ask the neighbor what he wants for the axe."
"I know that already,"
answered the old man.
1 thaler, 6 groschen.
"Then give him 2 thalers, 12 groschen. That is double and enough. See, I have money in plenty." And he gave the father $100 and said, "You shall never know want. Live as comfortably as you like."
"Good heavens," said the father. "How hast thou come by these riches?"
The scholar then told how all had come to pass, and how he, trusting in his luck, had made such a good hit. But with the money that was left, he went back to the high school and went on learning more. And as he could heal all wounds with his plaster, he became the most famous doctor in the whole world. The 3 Sons of Fortune. A father once called his 3 sons before him, and he gave to the first a cock, the second a scythe, and the third a cat.
"I am already aged," said he. "My death is nigh, and I have wished to take thought for you before my end. Money I have not, and what I now give you seems of little worth, but all depends on your making a sensible use of it. Only seek out a country where such things are still unknown, and your fortune is made."
After the father's death, the eldest went away with his cock. But wherever he came, the cock was already known. In the towns he saw him from a long distance, sitting upon the steeples and turning round with the wind. And in the villages he heard more than one crowing. No one would show any wonder at the creature, so that it did not look as if he would make his fortune by it. At last, however, it happened that he came to an island where the people knew nothing about cocks, and did not even understand how to divide their time. They certainly knew when it was morning or evening, but at night, if they did not sleep through it, not one of them knew how to find out the time.
"Look," said he, "what a proud creature! It has a ruby-red crown upon its head and wears spurs like a knight. It calls you 3 times during the night, at fixed hours, and when it calls for the last time, the sun rises. But if it crows by broad daylight, then take notice, for there will certainly be a change of weather." The people were well pleased. For a whole night they did not sleep, and listened with great delight as the cock at 2, 4, and 6 o'clock loudly and clearly proclaimed the time. They asked if the creature were for sale, and how much he wanted for it. "About as much gold as an ass can carry," answered he. "A ridiculously small price for such a precious creature." They cried unanimously, and willingly gave him what he asked. When he came home with his wealth, his brothers were astonished, and the second said, "Well, I will go forth and see whether I cannot get rid of my scythe as profitably." But it did not look as if he would. 4 laborers met him everywhere, and they had scythes upon their shoulders as well as he. At last, however, he chanced upon an island where the people knew nothing of scythes. When the corn was ripe there, they took cannon out to the fields and shot it down. Now this was rather an uncertain affair. Many shot right over it. Others hit the ears instead of the stems, and shot them away, whereby much was lost, and besides all this, it made a terrible noise. So the man set to work and mowed it down so quietly and quickly that the people opened their mouths with astonishment. They agreed to give him what he wanted for the scythe, and he received a horse laden with as much gold as it could carry. And now the third brother wanted to take his cat to the right man. He fared just like the others, so long as he stayed on the mainland. There was nothing to be done. Every place had cats, and there were so many of them that newborn kittens were generally drowned in the ponds.
At last, he sailed over to an island, and it luckily happened that no cats had ever yet been seen there, and that the mice had got the upper hand so much that they danced upon the tables and benches, whether the master were at home or not. The people complained bitterly of the plague. The king himself in his palace did not know how to secure himself against them. Mice squeaked in every corner, and gnawed whatever they could lay a hold of with their teeth. But now the cat began her chase, and soon cleared a couple of rooms, and the people begged the king to buy the wonderful beast for the country. The king willingly gave what was asked, which was a mule laden with gold, and the third brother came home with the greatest treasure of all. The cat made herself merry with the mice in the royal palace, and killed so many that they could not be counted. At last she grew warm with the work and thirsty, so she stood still, lifted up her head, and cried, "Meow, meow." When they heard this strange cry, the king and all his people were frightened, and in their terror ran all at once out of the palace. Then the king took counsel what was best to be done. At last it was determined to send a herald to the cat, and demand that she should leave the palace, or if not, she was to expect that force would be used against her. The counselors said, "Rather will we let ourselves be plagued with the mice, for to that misfortune we are accustomed, than give up our lives to such a monster as this." A noble youth, therefore, was sent to ask the cat whether she would peaceably quit the castle. But the cat, whose thirst had become still greater, merely answered, "Meow, meow." The youth understood her to say, "Most certainly not, most certainly not," and took this answer to the king. Then, said the counselors, "She shall yield to force." Cannons were brought out, and the palace was soon in flames. When the fire reached the room where the cat was sitting, she sprang safely out of the window. But the besiegers did not leave off until the whole palace was shot down to the ground. The Cunning Little Tailor. There was once on a time a princess who was extremely proud. If a wooer came, she gave him some riddle to guess, and if he could not find it out, he was sent contemptuously away. She let it be known also that whosoever solved her riddle should marry her, let him be who he might. At length, therefore, 3 tailors fell in with each other, the 2 eldest of whom thought they had done so many dexterous bits of work successfully that they could not fail to succeed in this also. The third was a little useless landlooper, who did not even know his trade, but thought he must have some luck in his venture, for where else was it to come from? Then the 2 others said to him, "Just stay at home. Thou canst not do much with thy little bit of understanding." The little tailor, however, did not let himself be discouraged, and said he had set his head to work about this for once, and he would manage well enough, and he went forth as if the whole world were his. They all 3 announced themselves to the princess, and said she was to propound her riddle to them, and that the right persons were now come, who had understanding so fine that they could be threaded in a needle. Then said the princess, "I have 2 kinds of hair on my head. Of what color is it?" "If that be all," said the first, "it must be black and white, like the cloth which is called pepper and salt." The princess said, "Wrongly guessed, let the second answer." Then said the second, "If it be not black and white, then it is brown and red, like my father's company coat." "Wrongly guessed," said the princess. "Let the third give the answer, for I see very well he knows it for certain." Then the little tailor stepped boldly forth and said, "The princess has a silver and golden hair on her head, and those are the 2 different colors." When the princess heard that, she turned pale and nearly fell down with terror, for the little tailor had guessed her riddle, and she had firmly believed that no man on earth could discover it. When her courage returned, she said, "Thou hast not won me yet. By that, there is still something else that thou must do. Below in the stable is a bear. with which thou shalt pass the night. And when I get up in the morning, if thou art still alive, thou shalt marry me." She expected, however, she should thus get rid of the tailor, for the bear had never yet left any one alive who had fallen into his clutches. The little tailor did not let himself be frightened away, but was quite delighted, and said, "Boldly ventured is half won." When therefore the evening came, our little tailor was taken down to the bear. The bear was about to set at the little fellow at once, and give him a hearty welcome with his paws. "Softly, softly," said the little tailor, "I will soon make thee quiet." Then quite composedly, and as if he had not an anxiety in the world, he took some nuts out of his pocket, cracked them, and ate the kernels. When the bear saw that, he was seized with a desire to have some nuts too. The tailor felt in his pockets and reached him a handful. They were, however, not nuts, but pebbles. The bear put them in his mouth, but could not get nothing out of them, let him bite as he would. Thought he, "what a stupid blockhead I am. I cannot even crack a nut." And then he said to the tailor, "Here, crack me the nuts." "There, see what a stupid fellow thou art," said the little tailor, "to have such a great mouth and not be able to crack a small nut." Then he took the pebble and nimbly put a nut in his mouth in the place of it, and crack, it was in two. "I must try that again," said the bear. "When I watch you, I then think I ought to be able to do it too." So the tailor once more gave him a pebble, and the bear tried and tried to bite into it with all the strength of his body, but no one will imagine that he accomplished it. When that was over, the tailor took out a violin from beneath his coat, and played a piece of it to himself. When the bear heard the music, he could not help beginning to dance, and when he had danced a while, the thing pleased him so well that he said to the little tailor, "Hark you, is the fiddle heavy?" "Light enough for a child. Look, with the left hand I lay my fingers on it, and with the right I stroke it with the bow, and then it goes merrily, hop, sa, sa, viva la ria." "So," said the bear, "fiddling is a thing I should like to understand too, that I might dance whenever I had a fancy. What dost thou think of that? Wilt thou give me lessons?" "With all my heart," said the tailor, "if thou hast a talent for it. But just let me see thy claws. They are terribly long. I must cut thy nails a little." Then a vise was brought, and the bear put his claws in it, and the little tailor screwed it tight, and said, "Now wait until I come with the scissors." And he let the bear growl as he liked, and lay down in the corner on a bundle of straw and fell asleep. When the princess had heard the bear growling so fiercely during the night, she believed nothing else but that he was growling for joy, and had made an end of the tailor. In the morning she arose careless and happy, but when she peeped inside the stable, the tailor stood gaily before her, and was as healthy as a fish in water. Now she could not say another word against the wedding, because she had given a promise before everyone, and the king ordered a carriage to be brought in, which was to drive to church with the tailor, and there she was to be married. When they had got into the carriage, the two other tailors, who had false hearts and envied him his good fortune, went into the stable and unscrewed the bear again. The bear in great fury ran after the carriage. The princess heard him snorting and growling. She was terrified, and she cried, "Ah, the bear is behind us and wants to get thee." The tailor was quick and stood on his head, stuck his legs out of the window and cried, "Dost thou see the vice? If thou dost not be off, thou shalt be put into it again." When the bear saw that, he turned round and ran away. The tailor drove quietly to church, and the princess was married to him at once, and he lived with her as happy as a woodlark. Whosoever does not believe this must pay a thaler. The Fisherman and His Wife. There was once on a time a fisherman who lived with his wife in a miserable hovel close by the sea, and every day he went out fishing, and once, as he was sitting with his rod, Looking at the clear water, his line suddenly went down, far down below, and when he drew it up again, he brought out a large flounder. Then the flounder said to him,
"Hark, you fisherman, I pray you let me live. I am a flounder, really, but an enchanted prince. What good will it do to you to kill me? I should not be good to eat. Put me in the water again and let me go."
"Come," said the fisherman, "there's no need for so many words about it. A fish that can talk I should certainly let go anyhow." With that, he put him back again into the clear water, and the flounder went to the bottom, leaving a long streak of blood behind him. Then the fisherman got up and went home to his wife in the hovel. "Husband," said the woman, "have you caught nothing today?" "No," said the man. "I did catch a flounder who said he was an enchanted prince, so I let him go again." "Did you not wish for anything first?" said the woman. "No," said the man. "What should I wish for?" "Ah," said the woman, "it is surely hard to have to live always in this dirty hovel. You might have wished for a small cottage for us. Go back and call him. Tell him we want to have a small cottage. He will certainly give us that." "Ah," said the man, "why should I go there again?" "Why?" said the woman. "You did catch him and you let him go again. He is sure to do it. Go at once." The man still did not quite like to go, but did not like to oppose his wife, and went to the sea. When he got there, the sea was all green and yellow and no longer smooth. So he stood still and said, "Flounder, flounder in the sea, come, I pray thee, here to me, for my wife good Isabel wills not as I'd have her will." Then the flounder came swimming to him and said,
"Well, what does she want then?"
"Ah," said the man, "I did catch you, and my wife says I really ought to have a wish for something. She does not like to live in a wretched hovel any longer. She would like to have a cottage."
"Go then," said the flounder. "She has it already."
When the man went home, his wife was no longer in the hovel, but instead of it there stood a small cottage, and she was sitting on a bench before the door. Then she took him by the hand and said to him, "Just come inside. Look, now isn't this a great deal better?" So they went in, and there was a small porch, and a pretty little parlor and bedroom, and a kitchen and pantry, with the best of furniture, and fitted up with the most beautiful things made of tin and brass, whatsoever was wanted. And behind the cottage there was a small yard, with hens and ducks, and a little garden with flowers and fruit. "Look," said the wife, "is not that nice?" "Yes," said the husband, "and so we must always think it. Now we will live quite contented." "We will think about that," said the wife. With that, they ate something and went to bed. Everything went well for a week or a fortnight, and then the woman said, "Hark you, husband, this cottage is far too small for us, and the garden and yard are little. The flounder might as well have given us a larger house. I should like to live in a great stone castle. Go to the flounder and tell him to give us a castle." "Ah, wife," said the man, "the cottage is quite good enough. Why should we live in a castle?" "What?" said the woman. "Just go there. The flounder can always do that." "No, wife," said the man. "The flounder has just given us the cottage. I do not like to go back so soon. It might make him angry." "Go," said the woman. "He can do it quite easily, and will be glad to do it. Just you go to him." The man's heart grew heavy, and he would not go. He said to himself, "It is not right," and yet he went. And when he came to the sea, the water was quite purple and dark blue, and gray and thick, and no longer so green and yellow, but it was still quiet. And he stood there and said, "Flounder, flounder in the sea, come, I pray thee, here to me, for my wife good Isabel wills not as I'd have her will."
"Well, what does she want then?"
said the flounder. "Alas," said the man, half scared.
"She wants to live in a great stone castle." "Go to it, then she is standing before the door,"
said the flounder. Then the man went away, intending to go home. But when he got there, he found a great stone palace, and his wife was just standing on the steps going in. And she took him by the hand and said, "Come in." So he went in with her, and in the castle was a great hall paved with marble and many servants, who flung wide the doors, and the walls were all bright with beautiful hangings. And in the rooms were chairs and tables of pure gold, and crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. And all the rooms and bedrooms had carpets, and food and wine of the very best were standing on all the tables, so that they nearly broke down beneath it. Behind the house, too, there was a great courtyard, with stables for horses and cows, and the very best of carriages. There was a magnificent large garden, too, with the most beautiful flowers and fruit trees, and a park quite half a mile long, in which were stags, deer, and hares, and everything that could be desired. "Come," said the woman, "isn't that beautiful?"
"Yes, indeed," said the man. "Now let it be, and we will live in this beautiful castle and be content."
"We will consider about that," said the woman, "and sleep upon it." Thereupon they went to bed. Next morning the wife awoke first, and it was just daybreak, and from her bed she saw the beautiful country lying before her. Her husband was still stretching himself, so she poked him in the side with her elbow and said, "Get up, husband, and just peep out the window. Look you, couldn't we be the king over all that land? Go to the flounder, and we will be the king."
"Oh, wife," said the man, "why should we be king? I do not want to be king."
"Well," said the wife, "if you won't be king, I will go to the flounder, for I will be king."
"Oh, wife," said the man, "why do you want to be king? I do not like to say that to him."
"Why not?" said the woman. "Go to him this instant. I must be king." So the man went, and was quite unhappy because his wife wished to be king.
"It is not right, it is not right,"
thought he. He did not wish to go, but yet he went. And when he came to the sea, it was quite dark gray, and the water heaved up from below and smelt putrid. Then he went and stood by it and said,
"Flounder, flounder of the sea, come, I pray thee, here to me, for my wife good Isabel wills not as I'd have her will."
"Well, what does she want then?" said the flounder.
"Alas," said the man, "she wants to be king."
"Go to her, she is king already."
So the man went, and when he came to the palace, the castle had become much larger, and had a great tower and magnificent ornaments, and the sentinel was standing before the door, and there were numbers of soldiers with kettle drums and trumpets. And when he went inside the house, everything was of real marble and gold, with velvet covers and great golden tassels. Then the doors of the hall were opened, and there was the court in all its splendor, and his wife was sitting on a high throne of gold and diamonds, with a great crown of gold on her head, and a scepter of pure gold, and jewels in her hand. And on both sides of her stood her maids in waiting, in a row, each of them always one head shorter than the last. Then he went and stood before her and said,
"Oh, wife, and now you are king."
"Yes," said the woman, "now I am king." So he stood and looked at her, and when he looked at her thus for some time, he said,
"And now that you are king, let all else be. Now we will wish for nothing more."
"Nay, husband," said the woman, quite anxiously. "I find time pass very heavily. I can bear it no longer. Go to the flounder. I am king, but I must be emperor too."
"Alas, wife, why do you wish to be emperor?"
"Husband," said she, "go to the flounder. I will be emperor."
"Alas, wife," said the man, "he cannot make you emperor. I may not say that to the fish. There is only one emperor in the land. An emperor the flounder cannot make you. I assure you he cannot."
"What?" said the woman. "I am the king, and you are nothing but my husband. Will you go this moment? Go at once. If he can make a king, he can make an emperor. I will be emperor. Go instantly." So he was forced to go. As the man went, however, he was troubled in mind, and thought to himself,
"It will not end well. It will not end well. Emperor is too shameless. The flounder will at last be tired out."
With that he reached the sea, and the sea was quite black and thick, and began to boil up from below, so that it threw up bubbles, and such a sharp wind blew over it that it curdled, and the man was afraid. Then he went and stood by it, and said,
"Flounder, flounder, in the sea, come, I pray thee, here to me. For my wife, good Isabel, wills not as I have her will."
"Well, what does she want then?" said the flounder.
"Alas, flounder," said he, "my wife wants to be emperor."
"Go to her," said the flounder. "She is emperor already."
So the man went, and when he got there, the whole palace was made of polished marble, with alabaster figures and golden ornaments, and soldiers were marching before the door, blowing trumpets and beating cymbals and drums. And in the house, barons and counts and dukes were going about as servants. Then they opened the doors to him, which were of pure gold. And when he entered, there sat his wife on a throne, which was made of one piece of gold, and was quite 2 miles high, and she wore a great golden crown that was 3 yards high, and set with diamonds and carbuncles. And in one hand she had the scepter, and in the other the imperial orb. And on both sides of her stood the yeomen of the guard in 2 rows, each being smaller than the one before him, from the biggest giant, who was 2 miles high, to the very smallest dwarf, just as big as my little finger. And before it stood a number of princes and dukes. Then the man went and stood among them, and said,
"Wife, are you emperor now?"
"Yes," said she, "now I am emperor." Then he stood and looked at her well, and when he looked at her thus for some time, he said,
"Ah, wife, be content now that you are emperor."
"Husband," said she, "why are you standing there? Now I am emperor, but I will be pope too. Go to the flounder."
"Alas, wife," said the man, "what will you not wish for? You cannot be pope. There is but one in the Christendom. He cannot make you pope."
"Husband," said she, "I will be pope. Go immediately. I must be pope this very day."
"No, wife," said the man, "I do not like to say that to him. That would not do. It is too much. The flounder can't make you pope."
"Husband," said she, "what nonsense. If he can make me emperor, he can make me a pope. Go to him directly. I am emperor, and you are nothing but my husband. Will you go at once?" Then he was afraid and went, but he was quite faint, and shivered and shook, and his knees and legs trembled, and a high wind blew over the land, and the clouds flew, and towards evening all grew dark, and the leaves fell from the trees, and the water rose and roared as if it were boiling, and splashed upon the shore. And in the distance he saw ships which were firing guns in their sore need, pitching and tossing on the waves. And yet in the mists of the sky there was still a small bit of blue, though on every side it was as red as in a heavy storm. So full of despair, he went and stood in much fear, and said,
"Flounder, flounder in the sea, come, I pray thee, here to me. For my wife, good Isabel, wills not as I'd have her will."
"Well, what does she want then?" said the flounder.
"Alas," said the man, "she wants to be pope."
"Go to her then," said the flounder. "She is pope already."
So he went, and when he got there, he saw what seemed to be a large church surrounded by palaces. He pushed his way through the crowd. Inside, however, everything was lighted up with thousands and thousands of candles, and his wife was clad in gold. and she was sitting on a much higher throne, and had 3 great golden crowns on. And round about her there was much ecclesiastical splendor, and on both sides of her was a row of candles, the largest of which was as tall as the very tallest tower, down to the very smallest kitchen candle, and all the emperors and kings were on their knees before her, kissing her shoes. "Wife," said the man, and looked attentively at her, "are you now Pope?" "Yes," said she, "I am Pope." So he stood and looked at her, and it was just as if he was looking at the bright sun. When he had stood looking at her thus for a short time, he said, "Ah, wife, if you are Pope, do let well alone." But she looked as stiff as a post, and did not move or show any signs of life. Then he said, "Wife, now that you are Pope, be satisfied. You cannot become anything greater now." "I will consider about that," said the woman. Thereupon they both went to bed, but she was not satisfied, and greediness let her have no sleep, for she was continually thinking what there was left for her to be. The man slept well and soundly, for he had run about a great deal during the day, but the woman could not fall asleep at all, and flung herself from one side to the other the whole night through, thinking always what more was left for her to be, but unable to call to mind anything else. At length the sun began to rise, and when the woman saw the red of dawn, she sat up in bed and looked at it. And when through the window she saw the sun thus rising, she said, "Cannot I too order the sun and moon to rise?" "Husband," she said, poking him in the ribs with her elbows, "wake up, go to the flounder, for I wish to be even as God is." The man was still half asleep, but he was so horrified that he fell out of bed. He thought he must have heard amiss, and rubbed his eyes and said, "Alas, wife, what are you saying?" "Husband," said she, "if I can't order the sun and moon to rise, and have to look on and see the sun and moon rising, I can't bear it. I shall not know what it is to have another happy hour, unless I can make them rise myself." Then she looked at him so terribly that a shudder ran over him, and said, "Go at once. I wish to be like unto God." "Alas, wife," said the man, falling on his knees before her, "the flounder cannot do that. He can make an emperor and a pope. I beseech you, go on as you are and be pope." Then she fell into a rage, and her hair flew wildly about her head, and she cried, "I will not endure this. I'll not bear it any longer. Wilt thou go?" Then he put on his trousers and ran away like a madman. But outside a great storm was raging and blowing so hard that he could scarcely keep his feet. Houses and trees toppled over. The mountains trembled. Rocks rolled into the sea. The sky was pitch black, and it thundered and lightninged. And the sea came in with black waves as high as church towers and mountains, and all with crests of white foam at the top. Then he cried, but could not hear his own words. "Flounder, flounder in the sea, come, I pray thee, here to me, for my wife, good Isabel, wills not as I'd have her will." "Well, what does she want then?" said the flounder. "Alas," said he, "she wants to be like unto God." "Go to her, and you will find her back again in the dirty hovel." And there they are living still at this very time.